Hey nerds, welcome to Nerdherfers. I am your host, Larry Brantley, and this is a bonus episode. We literally had so much to talk about, i.e., we talked so damn much in our first episode that we had enough to cut together this short little bonus episode for you. We hope you enjoy it. If you don't, say nothing. If you do, like, subscribe, do all the things. Here is our special bonus episode of Nerdherfers.
All right, so let's have the bookworm discussion.
Okay.
All right. Favorite authors in the genre? Go.
Neil Stephenson.
Piers Anthony.
Piers Anthony. Nice. I think for me,
Wait, I didn't get a nice? Because you don't know who Neil Stephenson is.
Actually, I don't.
No, I do.
Okay.
So explain. No,
You
I
need
don't.
to read a book. He wrote a book
Crash,
called
right?
Snow Crash.
Yes.
I read it once or twice a year. It's so good.
It is amazing.
I wish they would make a movie out of it. Ready Player One is kind of Snow Crash light.
Is it
It
really?
sure is.
Yeah,
Because I read Ready Player One long before it was a movie, and Ernest Cline, I
it's a
enjoyed
good
the
book.
shit out of that.
It's a good book in its own right. But no, he was a software guy. He was.
Well, it's totally believable. If you've read the book, then you see the definite geek influences, the kind of things that we're going to talk about.
I
on the
mean,
show.
We'll have to have a
that
discussion.
book is just replete with pop culture
One
references.
of our discussions will have to be movies, everything they get wrong about tech. Anyway,
That's going to be an episode we call Deep Dive.
Yeah,
And you're going to want to be drunk for that one.
It's I mean, he's credited with coining the word metaverse, or avatar. I'm sorry, the word avatar, which I don't think he actually did. I think he comes back and says he didn't actually come with that. Someone else did, but he got widely credited for that. But it's kind of the same thing. I mean, it's a dystopian future. America doesn't really exist anymore. We're kind of merged in with the Chinese culture, so everyone speaks, kind of like in Firefly, where it's half Chinese, half
Blade Runner.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Blade Runner. Isn't
A
that
topic
funny?
for another conversation there.
How all our dystopian
Cyberpunk in
futures
general.
end up with us being, merged in with China.
It's going to happen, you guys. I mean,
But
can we just be
anyway,
honest about this?
So so he's a hacker. There's a
your Duolingo
metaverse.
ready.
Everyone's got their avatars. Snow Crash. It's about this drug, and it goes really deep dive. So I love hard sci-fi. I like sci-fi like I like my bread, nice and hard, right? And that was supposed to be a joke.
so many
Nobody got it.
responses to that I'm
nobody got
not even going to touch.
Well, there's like facial expressions that you can't really get on audio. So
That's right. That's true.
Mostly their look of
They loved it,
uncomfortableness.
everybody. You should have seen their faces.
Should have seen their faces.
it's like, do I need to announce when I'm nodding? Because I'm nodding a lot.
No, but anyway.
Asterisk,
so, it's
Micah
really cool 'cause
nods.
Micah nods.
they dive into like programming the human brain through language and what language is and all. And they go back, all the way back to Sumerian and all this kind of stuff and all these. It's really got this just multiple levels, and it's just such a great story.
Well, I
So,
got to pick up a
yeah.
copy of
Yeah,
this.
you
now. It's
definitely
called
do.
Snow Crash?
Snow Crash.
Snow Crash.
You got to
Alright.
get it.
And then something later on, if you feel like it, don't really visit the rest of the books, but the Altered Carbon stuff is pretty good too.
So that started as a book series?
It did.
Yes.
Did not know that.
And the first book is
Swear to
fantastic.
God, I thought that was a Netflix original series.
No, it isn't. As a matter of fact, the Netflix series actually follows the book pretty well. But again, I'm going to preface this over all of it is that the first book is where it's at. That first season on Netflix is where it's at.
Yeah.
Because everything else after that is basically sci-fi, cyberpunk, lots of sex. And I mean, if you're into that, that's fine. And I mean, I like sex, but
We're not judging.
no judging. It's just that it becomes gratuitous after a while,
yeah.
and I don't need that. I want the story. I mean, I really want some meat to the story.
Right.
And that's what gets on my nerves is when stuff gets put into a story, like they change characters or whatever they do because they want to appeal to a broader audience without being true to the story, which was the source material is the good stuff, right?
Exactly.
It's not like you're making a movie to make the book better, right?
Totally.
So why change all this stuff? And there's just no
All
reason,
right.
and that
Okay.
grinds my gears.
Now I have a question for
Yeah.
you two nerds.
Yeah.
Is there a book that you've read that you think, please God, don't ever try to make this into a movie?
I'm reading a book right now.
What is it?
Expeditionary Force.
Expeditionary Force.
Yeah, I just got into the series. I couldn't even tell you the author. I have to look it up.
Okay. Well, you have a smartphone. You know that, right?
Yeah, I'm not going to do it right now.
Okay.
But no,
Fine.
I was,
leave our listeners hanging. That's
yeah,
fine.
yeah,
Whatever.
You know, they know what Google is. But the the premise is ridiculous, right? You think it's ridiculous, but it ends up that the storytelling is so good. I mean, when you see there's 16 books in a series, you know they've got something going. And when you see people going, I can't believe this series is ending, like this series is my life or whatever, you know it's got something good in it, right? But the storyline is basically in the first book, soldier in the army on home leave, he's from Maine. And all of a sudden they see lights in the sky, we're getting invaded by aliens. The aliens turn out to be giant hamster people, right? Other aliens come in to save us, and they're giant lizard people. And
oh my God, it's V.
Yeah,
it's V.
It is
yeah.
me.
But
They already made that one.
So I don't want to do any spoilers. I'm just saying everything's not what it seems in the book. But so the premise sounds kind of ridiculous, right? So the world gets together, forms the United Nations Expeditionary Force. We get with our allies, who are the lizard people at that point, to go fight the hamsters in some other part of space, yada, yada. Things evolve, secrets come out, story changes, alliances change, all that kind of crap. But the storytelling is amazing. It is an intriguing story. It's like I don't want to put it down. Like that's all I do is read this book.
That's all I need as an endorsement. Have you guys ever heard of an author called Harry Turtledove?
Yes.
I have.
Have you ever read any of his stuff?
I have not.
Okay, so Turtledove was an emeritus professor of history at UCLA. So when he writes speculative history, he knows what he's doing, right? Mm-hmm. But he's also a nerd like us. So he started, his first series of books started with a premise. What if smack dab in the middle of World War II, there was an alien invasion of Earth?
I'm sorry. I was having trouble wrapping my head around that one.
Yeah. He's got all the players. He's got the Reich. He's got Stalin. He's got Roosevelt. Like they're all in it. And what happens is the unlikely hero of the story of the first book is this army guy who reads science fiction pulps. So he is actually able to suspend his disbelief better than anybody else.
Yeah.
So
he's been like waiting for the day.
He hasn't been waiting for the day, but when it comes, he's ready for it. He's like, guys, they're from outer space. They're not just here to like conquer some of us. They want to colonize Earth. And now it's the complication of, all right, how do Roosevelt and Hitler and Stalin all get together, and Tojo all get together and go, I guess we're going to have to be on the same team for a little while because lizard people, I don't think they're, actually, maybe they are lizard people.
Why do I feel like we're getting into like a World of the Worlds thing? Germs or something like that?
No, it's not that at all.
Okay.
Not that at all. Because they're actually ass-kicking aliens with like real like wartime stuff.
What if the germs had tanks
but it's great.
and warlike
but
shit?
then, so Turtledove, what I like about
Little
him is
mini tanks.
Yeah, little baby tanks.
It'd be amazing. You never
No,
see
you
them.
just go like that all the time.
Oh no, germ tanks! Everybody run!
We took in an entire division of tanks today. What'd you do?
You can stomp all you like.
Stomped on them.
You think you're stomping in the right place, but they're over there.
What I love about Turtledove, though, is he takes real history and then just puts a little bit of a twist on it. So another one he did was, what if in the middle of the Civil War,
Oh my gosh.
a group of right-wing South African white supremacists got a hold of a time machine
Oh my gosh.
and wound up helping the Confederacy win the war.
Oh my! Which, by the way, incidentally, is one of my favorite subjects: time travel.
Oh, I think it.
I thought you were going to say the Confederacy winning the war.
Well, that would have taken a very different turn.
All right. Well, that's been Nerderverse.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in for our one and only episode. Now we have to
no,
drown Micah in a pool.
No, what? Well, that
But
just
time
saved
tra-
us to
So
another
it's interesting
episode.
that you say that because my wife is an avid reader, and she reads a lot of what she likes to call candy books.
Okay.
Right.
Define candy books.
So, like, if you're running through a sci-fi series, okay, I would call those candy books. They're great reads. They're fun reads. They're fast reads. They don't challenge you a lot, right?
I don't know. This book's pretty thick.
Not like for me, the difference is like I'm currently reading. Do you guys know who Nicholas Myers is?
Yes.
So Meyer started as a writer, and in the 70s, one of the first things he did was he wrote as himself character, who was an expert on John Watson, the sidekick to Sherlock Holmes, who wrote the books, or wrote everything. Yeah. And so he actually has written some additional Holmesian adventures, but not as a person who discovered the text.
Yeah, spoiler alert, they were long. He didn't actually write it.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
I mean, you guys know Sherlock Holmes isn't real, right?
What?
Yeah.
All night, but we know that you're just full of it.
But anyway, that's what I like. It's a fun read. It's an adventurous read. That's a candy book. You talked about a book that you read once or twice a year. The one that I read there's a couple books that I read at least once a year, but one of them is Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy. If you've never read that book, it is a challenge. But McCarthy's sense of narrative is so immediate and so visceral, and he doesn't use punctuation hardly ever. So like when characters are talking, there are no quotations.
So this book made it past the editors.
It takes you a minute to figure out what's going on. But it is simply one of the most brilliant pieces of literature I've ever read.
So we need to start a Nerdherfers book club.
Definitely.
Done. Done.
Where we'll
I think,
people,
honestly, we could be bigger than Oprah, you guys.
We'll have people email in their various suggestions of things that we need to talk about. So for my book, I had to say that it would definitely, along the lines of time travel, and they haven't done it yet, so the second that I mention this, of course they will, but Dean Koontz, Lightning.
Oh my God, that's such a great book.
Have you had?
Yes.
Excellent.
Long time. Like when it came, I was a huge Koontz fan.
Me too. Back in the 90s, it's like I couldn't get enough.
I couldn't wait for his next book to come
I was
out.
living in Mexico at the time, and of course I was still doing software, but I was in the basement of a resort all day.
He was a narco trafficker.
Yeah, I was.
We all know.
Oh yeah,
I was. I had a huge coke habit.
He might actually be serious.
Yeah.
You'll never know. He's totally serious.
No, but so in the lobby they had a library that was a book exchange library, type library. So people would come in and they would bring books and exchange stuff.
Oh, I love that.
And God bless some people were bringing in Dean Koontz books. I could not get enough of Dean Koontz.
But that's one you don't want them to make into a movie,
I don't,
right?
because I'm really enjoying everything. And then that's actually one in my normal rotation as well. I think that as the years have gone by, I've desensitized myself to it. So when I think I was probably about maybe 14 or 15 when I read it for the first time. Yeah. And it was definitely one, and I hate to say this because I feel like I should be saying that one of the books that I could never put down for the very first time in my life should be something epic. But honestly, it was this one. And so I'm
Nothing
reading.
wrong with that.
Yeah, I'm enjoying the book so much. And then, as I'm reading it more as an adult, I'm absorbing it more as an adult. And I'm picking up the connotations that he's talking about at the time period that it was written. And I'm really enjoying everything about what it is.
I'm telling you, man, that guy, there are just some guys like King, God, what's his name? Wendig? I just read a book called Black River Orchard, and it's very much in the King / Koontz style.
Yep.
Of this small town in Maine where the down on his luck apple farmer basically is growing this apple that makes everybody's dreams come true. Like they get healthier and prettier, and now they don't want to be without it, but it's like totally evil.
It's like a Needful Things type thing.
Actually, I was thinking like a Garden of Eden kind of thing, but whatever.
Yeah, it's totally evil. But I totally get that. Like I've read a few books. Now I will say this though, sometimes you got to give filmmakers their due. I was in the Army, and I had read Pet Sematary a few years before.
Oh, never. I've got strong feelings against this one. Never, ever, ever, ever. Pet Sematary and I are done for life.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to get into that.
We're gonna explore that in a minute.
But please continue.
So then, and again, in my unit in the Army, I wasn't the only geek or nerd, but I was definitely the one who was like not ashamed of it, right? Like I was like, like the first time a buddy asked to borrow my one of my Robert Heinlein novels, I was like, "You're a nerd." But a group of us, and I was in the the 3rd Ranger Battalion in Fort Benning, Georgia. We went into Columbus, Georgia to see Pet Sematary. And I was already at the point, even in the 80s, where I was like, do I really want to go see this movie? Because I love the book. And every time I love the book and then I go see the movie that's made from the book, it's not good.
Right.
It bothers me. This one was it literally was the first time in my life that I was like, okay, they nailed it. They nailed the idea of it. Because there's that scene. Now I'm talking about the original Pet Sematary, not the remake, right? The original. Talking about that scene where Gage runs out in the middle of the road to get the ball.
Yep.
That slow motion. I'm like, yeah, don't tell me. That was like, I was like, oh my God, they nailed that one. So sometimes I'm pleasantly surprised when a movie Now, I will tell you this, and we've had this discussion before, but for the benefit of our audience, we're going to have it again, because this is one of our first discussions when we were talking about. My favorite Robert Heinlein novel is a very small novel called Starship Troopers.
Fantastic.
Here we go.
And it is now, especially, and actually, I will say this in my unit at Benning, it was a lot of guys' favorite book, and a lot of guys weren't readers. I would give them that book, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, this is awesome!"
You just made a lot of people literary.
This is exactly like it's our life, though, right? It's written from the point of view of a grunt who works his way, and it's, he's only vaguely aware of the politics involved. He's just concerned with living to fight another day, and the guy to his right and the guy to his left. That's what appealed to me about the book.
Yep.
And then Verhoeven obviously read the book and went, bugs, it's a movie about bugs.
Yeah.
I think one of you or both of you love that movie.
So, love is subjective because
I love it. I love it because, as you guys know, I love crappy sci-fi movies.
Yes.
I love movies where I can just go in and make fun of every little thing in a scene because that's my ADD kicking in. And I don't care if it's actually a good movie. I mean, the worse, the more horrible, the writing, the acting, the dialogue, the special, I just love it because I can just turn everything off and just sit there and just make fun of it.
So you could actually say that this
So
would
that
be
is
a good
movie.
thing?
That's movie watching as a spectator sport.
Yes.
Okay.
You could say
It's a
that this
different
is
thing.
like an actual good thing or a bad thing, but I actually saw the movie first and then got curious about it because I didn't spend a lot of time with Heinlein as much as I wanted to in the past. So what I did was when I first saw Starship Troopers, I didn't particularly care for the movie, the dialogue, graphics, whatever. All I knew is that I was getting some pure carnage candy. And that's what I refer to with movies like that. I start watching it and it's carnage candy and I'm not looking for any kind of depth after that point.
It's not asking anything of you.
Yes, I'm accepting everything about what it is. And then when I went back to read the book, I was like, this is a masterpiece. And that's where you and I will hold hands in kumbaya because that book was it was so unbelievably written. And I never spent any time in the military, but there were moments that I could relate based on my friends that actually had spent time in the military. So, but when it came to the movie, like is a really strong expression when it comes to Starship Troopers, the movie. Do I like it when I want to see like absolute blood and carnage, like I'm watching Akira?
You need to get
something?
into 2 and 3 because they just get worse as they go.
You know what? I'm thinking I really don't.
Yeah.
But
I mean,
We don't
more
have that
carnage.
affliction.
oh my gosh.
I want to come back around to something that I let pass because I felt like I stepped on a boundary for you, man. We were talking about Pet Sematary.
Yes.
And I was talking about how much I enjoyed the original movie Pet Sematary because I thought it adhered to the source material, which was Stephen King's novel. And you put both feet flat on the ground and you got a stern look, which I didn't know you could pull off, and said, never, never, never. Now, I accept never, never, but you got to tell us why.
okay, so I didn't watch the first movie. I haven't read the book. Then the new version came out. Okay, so I don't have the frame of reference that you do on this.
All right.
But I watched this, and I can't imagine, especially since we're talking about Stephen King, that it's so different. Or maybe there was something a little bit more closer to the book that they were doing, kind of a la the kid from It losing his arm
Oh, yeah.
as opposed
Yeah,
to
yeah,
just
yeah.
like having it broken or being sucked in. But I mean, it rips off his arm.
Yeah.
So having no frame of reference, apart from my friends just telling me that, oh, this movie is just so great, it's horrible and horrifying at the same time. It's wonderful.
So that Pet Cemetery adheres more to Dingus's movie so bad that he loves them. Is that my understanding?
No. So the new Pet Cemetery that came out, having no frame of reference, just a little bit of conversation that went around, what happens to the animals and bring them back and then they come back to life. So I had no idea about the guy's kid.
About Gage?
I don't know.
He hasn't read the book. He hasn't seen the movie.
But he was watching the show. You watched the
All
thing.
I know is that parent buried their kid and that kid came back demonic.
Yeah.
And then that parent had to kill that kid. And I seriously, my whole world just crumbled into pieces going, blah, 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 blah.
Then you definitely don't want to watch the original or read the book because that is a huge part of it. But thank you for explaining that.
Yeah.
As you were telling the story, and
It's
I
the
think maybe
overly
he
dad
thought this
thing
too.
in me. I can't help
I was thinking, oh, you're just ignorant. You're not dumb, right? There's a difference.
Well, there's probably a little bit of both.
Because ignorance can be cured. Ignorance is simply a lack of expertise, understanding, or wisdom.
Oh, fair.
That you can get those things. You can go out and seek those things. Dumb is just dumb.
Yeah.
So I was going to suggest, well, then you should absolutely read the book and then watch the original movie. However, the thing you hate most happens in the book and in the movie. And although I've never seen the remake, probably much more graphically in the original.
It is much like the new.
We're just going to let that one slide.
The new Firestarter.
Now you know,
understand
Nerdherfers, we are never, ever discussing Pet Cemetery again. We'll discuss
No,
things Stephen King.
I'll be sitting there with my fingers in my ears. La, 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 la,
Tell you
la,
what,
la.
you need to go watch. There's a movie that came out in the mid 70s. I want to say 75 or 76. All I remember is my dad took me to see it, and I was way too young to see this movie. But it's called It's Alive.
Oh,
Have you
I've
seen it?
seen that film.
It's
Heard about
so
it,
great.
never seen it.
Yes.
So I watched it the other day because, my love for crappy movies. And when you're 6 years old, you don't appreciate how crappy the movie is. You just see this little monster demon baby, right?
Yes.
But then you realize when you're watching it as an adult that half the scenes are some grown adult in a baby suit crawling around a floor real fast.
no.
Yes.
They're trying to pass it out.
Yes,
But anyway,
when you're
kind of same
6
situation. They have a demon baby. And,
Yeah.
that
When you're
goes
6 years old, it's horrifying. When you're a middle-aged man, it's a comedy.
And we try to keep this show as comedy as possible. So I just knew when you were going to ask me the question that my reasoning behind No
You
Pet
don't want to-
Cemetery.
You don't have to
I get
worry
it.
about
I get
bringing
it.
the room down, man. We're
get
talking
it.
geek shit here. This is what we do.
So I mean, if knowing what I know, if we do have a conversation of Pet Cemetery, I will try and add quip every once in a while. But other than that,
Michael's just going to go jump in the hot tub while we're talking.
Yeah. The sound you're hearing is Micah in the hot tub now. And also in the distance, you're hearing la 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 la. This has been a production of Nerdherfers, copyright 2024, all rights reserved. No portion, and I do mean no portion of this broadcast may be used without permission. Please visit nerdherfers.com for more information and full legal disclaimer, you nerd.